everyone, this is Erin Anding, and I'm here as we continue our journey through setting up your faculty Google site. And this video might not be the one that you think about first. Um, Getting up and running is probably most important, but as you fine tune, as you adjust, this is something to keep in mind. And that is uh, yet another way of adding depth and context, thinking, whether it's with hyperlinks or embedding and things of that nature. But with that comes a potentially bad side effect. And it's a side effect we are feeling a lot right now. And that is speed. Okay. The need for speed. And unfortunately, the lack of it in a lot of what is going on in the world today. So, years ago, I think we all kind of accepted a slow load time. If you think back to when you first started using the internet, or, my brain just automatically pops to the Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, You've Got Mail. And, it shows them, she says, I wait with bated breath. And you can hear it, you've got mail. Um, that was great back in 1999 2000. Today we don't wait with bated breath. We get very, very annoyed very fast because we want it and need it immediately. And in the situation we're in with virtual learning, you do kind of need it immediately. But in some ways it's almost like we're back in 1999. And that is because while everything has gotten faster and everything has gotten faster, with the pandemic there was the unintended consequence of the sheer volume that went online. So if you actually read the articles and stuff like that, in March, they were literally watching internet usage jumping, 10, 20% in a matter of days around the world because everybody went home and all of a sudden they were teleconferencing like they'd never done before and they were doing distance learning. And then, let's be real, nobody was, going anywhere. So what happened? Netflix, Hulu, Bravo, all those came out in spades. And the internet usage around the world just went nuts. And in some places like Europe, they actually started mandating that people and companies, like streaming services, started streaming at a lower resolution. They were trying to preserve the bandwidth. And you might not have realized it, but some of your streaming services were voluntarily doing that in America. You weren't streaming at the level you thought we were streaming because they were resetting it, trying to preserve the bandwidth. Okay. And, in the last couple of months, there have been a lot of improvements. People have gotten online differently. Companies have tried to, put in updates and things of that nature. But the reality is, we still have a lot of people spending a very large amount of time on the internet. Okay. So even a good situation, a typical situation, doing what we're doing now would require a lot of bandwidth, but doing what we're doing now with the whole world doing it is leading to problems. And then if we're being realistic, many of our students don't have the best situation, and even if they do have great internet, bandwidth and hotspots and stuff like that, when you put 6, 7, 8 devices on home, service, quickly everything starts loading slow. Okay. So one thing to think about, one thing, to thoughtfully think about, once you get yourself up and running, or maybe, as you're doing it, if you're in the process of making things, is think about the size, the file size of what you're doing and what you're putting on. Now, by all means, put it on if it's needed or it adds to, the content, but can you put it in a way that would make the load time faster on your student's end? Okay, and I'll give you a good example. One of the biggest examples that's coming out is the Bitmoji classrooms. Now, everyone knows I taught y'all how to do them. So I do love them. I make one a week. This digital book display is filled with Bitmoji classrooms that are promoting books. But I was making them the traditional way with the Google slide, and there I was embedding book links and YouTube links and all this other stuff. And I went on, school website, school Wi-Fi, and wanted to show something to my student workers as we were talking about them. And as it's loading, it's like you could see it. Every single thing I had added was a box. And every single box had 3 dots in it as it was trying to gather all of the data. And it was loading and it was slow. And I was apologizing to the students, sorry it's taking so long. Sorry it's taking so long. What's going? It was just a lot of data. Great tool, a lot of data. So realized in the long run that might not be the most efficient thing for me with what I needed to do. And so I went online and found out that this was becoming a concern across the country. And people came up with solutions. And one of the solutions was to save things as a PDF. So if you were to actually look at my website really carefully, down here are some of the ones that I have uploaded already. And if you're looking, you probably think it's a Google slide. But is it a Google slide? Here's my one for the week of Percy Jackson's birthday. I'll expand it. And notice it's still taking a few seconds. It's still a sizable thing. But when it comes up, there was none of the, various things blinking at me with little boxes because it's a PDF. So all the links are preserved, but it's preserved as one item. Okay. If you actually compare, I have on my YouTube channel and in my August newsletter, I actually show 2 videos where I do one as a PDF, one as a Google slide. You can actually compare the file size to get an idea of the difference. But this still does what I need it to do, but it loads faster. So, it still takes you to, here's a hidden link. That's taking to a whole series of playlists related to Greek mythology. And since Percy Jackson is, mythology. And notice the load time, even on, something, once, think about it, this thing actually has 2 load times because it's got the load time for the Bitmoji Classroom and then it has this load time. So this actually took longer than probably the PDF. Great stuff. But it did load. Go back, came back pretty easily, but watch, it still does what I need it to do. But the file size is smaller. So this one, since my Mac and V account is open, I'm already logged into it. Takes me to 3 really, really great mythology books written by one of my favorite authors. Okay, one of my favorite young adult authors for historical fiction and for mythology. Did what I needed it to do, but by making it a PDF, I can put more onto this page. I can make the runtime faster rather than slower. And it's not anything that anybody probably would have noticed unless I told you. These are things to think about. How can you still have this rich content, but make it so it doesn't take forever loading? Might not be your thing to think about in the very beginning, but as you progress and get better at websites, something to definitely think about. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I look forward to seeing what you guys are creating. Thank you so much.